This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
All right, so should we get into this read?
Yeah, we're only like an hour into today's time slot.
Thank you, everyone,
Maybe
for
we should
sticking
start.
with us.
I really appreciate it.
All right, so chapter 26, As If the World Were Fog. And our symbol is the snake and the wheel, because we've got a time synchronization and multiple POVs going through a big moment, so we gotta have some momentous symbology.
I feel like we were completely wrong about the time scale last time, right? Because weren't we saying that Perrin was dumping the grains in on the same morning that he rescued Fael? But no, it's a 2-day gap. It takes 2 days for the grains to flow down. I think we completely missed that in our last analysis.
I think I may have missed that on every prior read, actually. Now that you're mentioning that, it's kind of like, 2 days. But I mean, they are taking packs of food and they're going to go hide and it's going to be a long trek. I mean, it makes sense for it to be 2 days. But yeah, I don't think I ever really put that together until this moment.
I always thought that he was putting the grains in the morning, and then by that afternoon they would have soaked in enough that
that's what I thought too. But
yeah.
Alas,
No.
We've been bamboozled by our own assumptions.
And in a lot of ways, it's why we do the podcast, so we can figure out how badly our assumptions are fucking us up.
Speaking of assumptions, we start out with Tuon. Toy set a fast pace through the forest. But Tuon rode close behind him, with Solucia at her side, of course, so she could listen in on him and Talmanes. Her own thoughts interfered with eavesdropping, however. So he had grown up with the Dragon Reborn, had he? The Dragon Reborn. And he had denied knowing anything at all of the man. That was one lie of his she had failed to catch, and she was good at catching lies. In Shandar, the undetected lie might be the one that killed you or sent you to the sail block as property. Had she known of his prevarication, she might have slapped his face rather than allowing him to kiss her. Now that had been a shock, one she was not sure she had recovered from yet. Solucia had described being kissed by a man, but the actuality made the other woman's descriptions pale. No, she had to listen. And I didn't want to read the whole conversation because dialogue is not interesting to read.
Really? I enjoy reading it sometimes.
This one did not appeal to me.
Gotcha. You left Estion in charge? That potato face. Remember him back, like, one of those Kyrianan nobles from way back in the day.
Yeah, this is one of those scenes where you're seeing the collection of people that, like, yeah, I remembered the first time that the podcast went through the Stone of Tyr being like, guys, this is all the people that are going to rule the band. Guys, it's all of them. They're all right here. Here we are seeing all of them, the ones who have not died, having made it. They have transitioned from the card table to being regular leaders of Matt's army.
And it was back the first bubble of evil, right? When the cards came alive and tried to kill him. They were all in that room.
That's the one.
That's the one. So Estion being that potato-faced, rich, ridiculous lord to being in charge. Now, in fairness, Matt's like, what the fuck? Like
Exactly. Estion?
Estion? I remember him being that bumbling, rich idiot. Why would you leave him in charge?
Right. And this is the discussion in which we have Matt saying, that's it. I'm putting an end to social class having any bearing on military rank. Everyone can, if they don't like it, they can go home. I refuse to let this endanger me in the last battle. And Talmanes is like, good idea. No one's going to go home. Everyone's going to accept that. That's a reasonable call, dude. Totally.
And we're in Tuon's POV, right? So we actually get some of her, I would say, confirmation about the prophecy, right? The things that have intrigued her about Matt are in the next paragraph. The red-handed symbol Talmanes wore was intriguing. More than intriguing, much more, right? Because that's the first time she's seeing the red hand, which matches the prophecy.
Right, and she's like, well, the hand is important, but it's on not Matt, so why?
But it's Matt's private army. She says that later. She's like, clearly this is Matt's private army, right?
Right. Talmanes is not important except for that he is the head of Matt's army and is coming to report. That's all that Talmanes matters.
And then she says he remembers Hawkwing's face. That was part of the prophecy. Even though he denied it, that was clearly a lie because he's a terrible liar.
LOL. And
then the ring. The ring is really important because that's the fox that makes the ravens fly. That's part of the prophecy. So this whole paragraph is her being like, checking off the prophecy and being like, yep, he's the man, clearly. And sort of seeing that and matching up again what we get later with the prophecy.
Right. And then as we're eavesdropping, we get discussion of the new crossbow crank, which has a lot of implications for multiple military engagements moving forward. It's basically like the introduction of guns or grenades or cannons in its own right. It is the archery level upgrade of like suddenly having guns, to have bows that you can shoot very, very quickly without needing training.
Right, because we don't have guns, right? So we get cannons, but guns are not something we were able to invent before the end of the series. So these fast crank crossbow bolts are really much more the guns of the era.
Right. This is guns with the actual gunpowder being confined to the larger version of cannons, right? We're getting two different kinds of upgrades. Robert Jordan said, yeah, I realize that handheld guns aren't going to work, but I still want the non-magic users to have a weapons upgrade that like truly increases their killing at a distance power. So how about crossbow cranks? That'll have to do.
And it makes Matt it gives Matt a military power that isn't channeling, but because again, Matt really represents modern military strength, and how would that function against channelers?
Right.
And yeah, later he does use channelers, but for the most part, what he's good at is becoming the modern military. That's, I think, Robert Jordan is using Matt to say, in the same way that the circus is an evolution from a traveling show to the big tent, big top circus, right? He's doing that same evolution with Matt and the modern military.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tuon is very intrigued by this because she is, trained in the art of war and knows how critical this will be, just as much as Matt does. Again, why Robert Jordan is saying Matt and Tuon are going to be cute together is because they're both going to understand stuff like the utility of crossbow cranks.
And again, we see some confirmation, right? She sees Matt calming a horse by whispering it in its ear, which is something he told her he could do, and she didn't believe him, right? So all of these things that he's told her that we know are true, right? Like, Matt's telling the truth. She's like, Matt's a bullshitter. This is fucking bullshit. There's no way he can do these things. He doesn't have a private army. He can't whisper in a horse's ear. He's not. And then she's watching these things that she thought were ridiculous boasts being checked off one by one. And she's like, oh, I underestimated this man. That's really, I think, what's going on here. This is really the point. And we see it later. This is the line on the plane.
Yeah, this is really a big old chapter of Tuon getting as close to admitting she was wrong as she'll ever get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. And she's not going to say she was wrong, but she's going to say this is a different situation.
Yeah.
And he's looking a little different.
Yeah, she's realizing that she's confused, but she's not going to admit it to anybody, and she'll never admit she was wrong. Just that she's a little underestimated him a skosh. But she even describes Matt as being kind of like Tom here, very much in his element as Tylan's pet, yet also in his element among the show's performers, and with the Marath Damane and the escaped Damane, and in the Hell. Like, that's such a Tom thing. Like, Matt's really taking after his adopted dad, Tom, in this.
Yeah, the ability to blend in any situation. It's also about, like, being this sort of extrovert who can, like, socialize with anybody and he just sort of, everyone wants to be around him. Everyone likes to be around him. He's a pleasant person to hang out with, which we, like, as readers, we feel. Everyone, that's that thing when people are like, Matt's my favorite character to read because he's fun to hang out with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he camouflages, or he mirrors people well. Like, he can move between any class because he doesn't really think anything of himself other than that he's a person, and he just wants to kind of meet whoever he's interacting with where they're at. And he's going to be sort of rude and off-putting and crass, maybe, but he treats everyone the same amount of that.
Yeah.
Which is, important.
Later when Tuon's like asking the nobles, like, is he really a noble or not? And they're like, no, but I'm proud to be one of the nobles he doesn't hate.
Right.
These are the same nobles who were just pissing on commoners earlier and saying they couldn't lead. It's like somehow Matt is the exception in their head. Like, he's not a noble, he's Matt.
Exactly.
He's his own category.
Which is
yeah.
a weird expectation for people to have, like in the real world. That's not generally how it works, but you do get these oddballs like Matt and Tom and Odin who can do that. They can do that. They can just sneak their way through every social class and be welcomed as a guest by all. Because, he is literally Odin.
All right, so who is this mechanic in Murandy who invented these cranks? Any idea? He's got a wagon load of inventions to take up to Camelin. And Camelin, I'm assuming he's going to the school that Rand established.
I don't know who he is. He's some dude.
All right.
He's just some
dude.
Michelangelo type, or Leonardo da Vinci type, just polymathing his way towards whoever has money.
And Matt, being the Taviran that he is, just happened to get the right invention that he needed at just the right time.
Right. Well, I mean, it's Matt plus Rand, right? Rand is the one who started this. Rand is the one who founded the schools and told people there's money and glory to be had if you can bring an invention. Rand is the reason that this man is inventing stuff and going on the road. So it's a double Taviran whammy for Matt to acquire him, because Rand set the marble rolling down the hill.
Some more speculation from Tuon. There's this conversation about the book Fog and Steel.
Your book, Matt. What do you mean my book? The book you're always quoting. Oh, yeah, that book.
Sure. I guess I did read that a long time ago in another life.
And meanwhile, it's getting brought back into print circulation because of his commentary. King Roadron has printed up 2 new copies and given one away to the band. Like, this book is coming back into circulation because of the freaking memories that Matt has.
And didn't he, write the damn thing in a previous life or something, one of those?
I don't think that he was ever Madrick, but he has multiple lives where he read the book and used it extensively. I don't think he was ever the author, but I might be wrong about that.
Because isn't there one book that he remembers writing that book?
It's a poem.
It's a poem, okay.
It's the Color of Trust poem is the one that he remembers writing. But I wouldn't put it past him to also have been Comadrin, and I just forgot it at some point because there's a lot of memory jumbled stuff to keep track of.
Right, and I'm not saying he was them. He has the memories of being them.
Yeah, same, potato, whatever.
Right.
I don't care. All right, so should we get into this read?
And is the Fog and Steel a reference to this chapter title, As If the World Were Fog?
I assumed it was a reference to the Fog of War.
That's me too, but I didn't really see a good reference to As If the World Were Fog in this
chapter. Perrin
Did
thinks
I miss it?
Yeah, you missed it. Perrin thinks it.
Okay.
Tuon sets herself to watching for omens, and there's not much to talk about there, except I just like the absurdity of thinking about how there's no omens about cattle.
Yeah, because they don't have any cattle.
They do too have cattle.
No? In Shanshan?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of assumed they'd be eaten by all the Rockin'.
Rockin' eat fruit.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they don't eat
that.
meat. They just look like they would because they're scary bats, but they're fruit bats. No, they totally have cattle, but I just think it's funny that Tuon's like, oh no, we totally don't have prophecies around cattle. And I'm like, first of all, have you heard of the Indus Valley River civilization? Have you heard of the fact that cows are uber sacred, and uber important to multiple human civilizations? It's very silly for there to not be omens around cattle, you omen crazed slaver.
And these are longhorns, right? These aren't normal cattle.
I don't know what you would define normal cattle as.
Tall, lean cattle with very long horns that stuck out almost straight to either side. Texas Longhorns, for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Which means that they should know about them from Shanshan because they're from Texas, America.
They're from Texas. That's what I'm saying.
They should have omens around
But I do like
cattle.
that Tuon commenting on them is important,
yeah,
right?
It's just fun. Yeah, so we're just in her head. She's thinking about how Matt might be part of like a White Tower plot, which I think is just the inbred paranoia of her culture, like pushing against the obviousness of the fact that it's not. And she's like, that seems like a weird impulse. And it's like, yes, Tuon, it's because you come from a magically induced levels of paranoia society with slavery. Like, no, you're just paranoid.
She thinks that Aludra doesn't like her because she refuses to accept the return. I think Aludra doesn't like her because she's banging Matt.
I think Aludra doesn't like her because she's the head of the empire that burned all of her colleagues to death because they didn't show deference.
There might be that too. I think she's a little jealous of Matt, though. I think it's a more...
she's definitely jealous of Matt, but she hates the Shan-Chan for killing the Illuminators. She hated them long before she had personal beef with Tuon. Like, Tuon gets a double whammy. She is hated as head of Empire and as a woman who stole her boyfriend. Well, not even boyfriend, but fuck buddy. Well, not even fuck buddy, just making out buddy.
Yeah, there was something, because they were kissing.
Yeah, they were totally kissing. And there is a moment later, unfortunately under Brandon Sanderson's pen, where they do explicitly address the fact that Tuon has sort of made their interpersonal dynamic weird. That does happen explicitly later, but Aludra invented the dragons because she was angry at Shan-Chan for killing all of her people. That was long before Tuon was in the picture. So.
Fair.
But yeah, Tuon does not understand the depths to which she is not liked. Because she doesn't know that Aludra is like the last surviving Illuminator. Like, she doesn't understand all of that baggage at all, much less the whole thing with Matt.
We have a bit of discussion about Ta'Viren.
Yes, then we have Tom schooling Tuon on what Ta'Viren is, and then Tuon has the most delightfully, like, I will not shout at you, Nynaeve shouted moment. Thank you, she told him politely. I think I've heard enough. Ta'Viren, ridiculous. These people and their endless superstitions. A small brown bird, surely a finch, flew out of a tall oak and circled Widdershins 3 times above Toy's head before flying on. She had found her omen. I will not shout at you, Nynaeve shouted, is literally what is happening here. These stupid people and their stupid superstitions. Ooh, a bird.
And their stupid superstitions.
A bird will tell me what to do with my life. This oral tradition of these people, like, that actually ties into like a cosmological understanding of the world that might make sense of like history on a sweeping scale. That's silly, but this bird knows what my fate is. It's silliness. It's absolute silliness. Tom is talking about a literal oral tradition with a written component, and she's talking about a fucking bird. Like, come on.
But the bird did say, stay close to Toy, which is, the thing is, I always wonder if there's some accuracy in their omens.
Oh, you wonder that now, do you?
There never is. It's always too vague. But maybe Ta'Viren is making the bird pop out so she stays close to Matt?
I could definitely buy that if she is seeking an omen, it would be very easy for the pattern to just reach out to a bird and be like, how about you just turn around 3 times? Because you were going to fly that way anyway. It'll tell this bitch to chill out and stay put, and it's no big deal.
And or she wants to stay close to Toy and is going to see the omen that tells her to do that and will ignore all other omens. Confirmation bias.
I mean, I would argue that Ta'Viren is kind of making confirmation bias a mechanic of the world. Like, the argument is basically that confirmation bias is plot.
Right.
That's basically what the argument is here.
So as they ride in, everyone's really excited that Matt's back, and Tuon's going like, the people seem to really like him, which is weird because they don't look like drunkards. And that's the only time I've actually seen troops like their commander is when he lets them just drink and be sloppy and lazy.
She's like, well, obviously it's going to be an army of fuckboys.
Right. Tuon's just been a partier, and that's clearly what they are, a partier and a gambler.
I also noticed that a growing murmur of voices rose, rustling through the trees, like a breeze, like a wind. Is it the rising of a wind, perhaps? Potentially. Oh. Lord Matt.
A wind rose. It was not the beginning, but it was a beginning.
I also think it's very interesting that Tuon has no problem assigning all of this leadership and whatnot to Matt, when we know it's mostly Talmanes and the few people that Matt interacted with instilling a culture on all of the men who have been recruited since Matt took off.
Yeah, but they're all doing it like that culture is Matt's. Matt did establish that culture, and Talmanes is just executing it.
But he's executing it effectively. This is
Well,
Talmanes
yes.
erasure.
We all love
We're just
Talmanes.
completely
Yeah.
sidelining him like the work wife that he is.
It's invisible work, okay?
Truly.
Like it's just
Truly.
Yeah.
I'm offended
Yeah.
on Talmanes' behalf. He should be getting more credit for like doing such a good job maintaining what Matt wants. And knowing what Matt wants and being able to effectively execute Matt's broad desires without Matt there to help. Like, Talmanes is clearly good at his job inherently.
I'm not arguing with you at all. Yeah.
It's,
not at all.
Yeah, I understand why Sanderson gave Talmanes so much airtime, because he has not been given his due at this point.
No, although there's a line here that I think is pretty fucking funny that Talmanes has. That's a really good joke. I'll bring it up when we get to it.
Okay.
So everyone starts singing to Dance with Jack of the Shadows because they see Matt, and that's like basically his theme song, even though he hates it because it just means dancing with death. And as a man who's died at least twice, that's, and probably is going for a third.
Yeah. Yeah, he knows he's going for a third, almost certainly. Yeah.
But he basically does the thing where he's like, all right, we're going to move fast. Get ready to do the thing you're good at because you're going to kick some ass. And that is the one thing that, like, I think established the band as particularly effective is how quickly they moved, right? He took them out of some of their traditional roles and said, we're gonna march further and faster and harder than you think we can. And that's how we're going to win battles, by being in places nobody thinks we can be.
And not having supply lines as a vulnerable weak spot in our strategies.
Right.
And he doesn't have to do, he's noted as not orating. He just speaks, right? He has this whole like commander vibe that clearly is coming to him from his amalgamated memories that make him just, a quintessential leader when it comes to this kind of like generalship. And Tuon is, again, very impressed by that. That does it. That gets her motor running,
Right. Well, and speaking of how impressive Talmanes is, right? He's got map makers now. He's got
the best map makers you can find.
A crew of engineers. He's got the best map makers you can find. And Tuon immediately sees that as a threat. The information in the map is about as big of a threat as the cranks or anything else that Matt is doing. And that it sort of tells you how important the information that the map maker is coming up with is to the army and to Tuon and the Shan-Chan in the battles.
That was something I learned in my geography degree, is that the science of geography is rooted in military intelligence. Like, that's where it starts. That's where mapping technology comes from. That's where all the technology is driven from. It is one of the most important pieces of information a military can have, is the lay of the land and where people are on it. So like reconnaissance,
GPS.
GPS, GIS, all of these things going back to the very dawn of military anything. It's maps are critical to militaries, and militaries are critical to maps. They're the same thing in so many ways.
I mean, how are you going to know where to point your guns if you don't know, how far away the enemy is, or if there's a hill between here and there?
And you have to be able to calculate the curve of the earth even when you're some random dude in a trench, because your cannon's firing over a hill and you got to do the geometry to like figure it out. Like, you got to know these things.
I love that, like, also our whole space program is basically like, okay, I want to deliver this warhead on his house. What's the most effective way to do that? And it's like, okay, rockets. Oh, by the way, we can also get to space with those things, by the way.
Yeah, I guess.
So,
cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Let's have a space mission thing. Yeah.
Right. Or like GIS, you can just go zooming around saying like, wow, a whole lot of people in this like dry as fuck part of California have swimming pools. Also, I guess I could be finding like terrorists in a fruit market halfway around the world. But for now, I'm just going to count how many swimming pools exist in Southern California. Same tech. So, yeah, information's very important. That's all that to say. Maps are very important. Information's important. And maps are also really good for pushing back against militaries, pushing back against warfare, pushing back against colonialism and resource extraction, counter mapping. I should see if I can find a link to the paper. There's a very cool paper that's pretty old about counter mapping that I also got exposed to, that was like, it doesn't have to only be a weapon of war. We can adapt the concept of knowing where things are in space away from the military and just have it be a thing. It's morally valueless. It's just information, but it is an interesting historical fact that they're intricately linked. Anyway.
Lopin is awesome. He gives Tuon the perfectly honeyed tea.
Yep, he's learning. Because he's Matt's manservant, and he sees that this woman is attached to Matt's household. So he's like, I'm going to learn how to make sure she likes the tea, because that's part of making Matt's household function properly.
I don't have a whole lot for the next page or two. It's, her watching Matt reunite with some Kyrianans, Matt getting some maps out.
Mostly what I have is sort of her thoughts in this next section is sort of her thoughts on commoner and slave and nobility relations.
Okay.
So Lucia hits a serving man for leering at her, and Tuon thinks about how even though she's all super powerful, she can't hit commoners. It's like literally like would damage her honor, which I think is an interesting...
well, but that's why Solucia's there. She can command Solucia to do it. She's
allowed to own slaves in a way that Solucia's not, but she can't hit them in the way that Solucia can. It's a whole interesting thing. And then we skip ahead to her talking to Mistress Anan about the fact that they've been having long conversations about the morality of slavery and if you should even be leashing magic users at all, and how she's like managed to make Mistress Anan concede a few points, and they don't have arguments, they have discussions. And it's like, I don't know how I feel about that, because it feels like one of those like, well, we're having a civil discussion, and because I'm a racist fuckwaffle who will melt down if you push on me too hard, I get to dictate the terms, and I get to say that we're having a civil discussion. And it just, I don't know, I'm not sure how I feel about Mistress Anna giving Tuon such an easy time.
I'll come at it from this perspective. The only time I've seen people effectively change their minds is when you sit down and have a civil conversation with them and don't throw accusations at them.
Right, and she's referencing that they've been doing this for weeks now, and she's only made Mistress Anan concede a few points. There's no mention of her conceding a few points back, like, you know?
Okay, here's where I think that's projection, right? I think that she's had to concede a few points, and she's like, well, I've definitely made her concede a few points. It's like, no. You've had to concede a few. That's where I'm putting it, is this unreliable narrator where it's like, okay, you think you're making progress, but really you're being convinced. Right? Again, this is us. I am assuming that Jordan had a plan to go further with this that Sanderson didn't take, right? That she was being convinced, and as Jordan loves to prove his characters wrong, she is saying, I'm convincing Mistress Anan, when the reverse is true, and in the last battle, she'd think back to those and be convinced by Mistress Anan's arguments.
Okay. Because I'm just like, Mistress Anan is both a former Aes Sedai and a woman who's raised children. There's no way that Tuon is winning a series of these discussions. That just makes no sense to me. But I like that explanation, that it's just her lying.
Yeah, because we're in Tuon's head.
Okay.
Of course Tuon thinks she's winning. We're in Tuon's head.
That's
yeah.
True.
Yeah, but
very true.
She's not. She's getting convinced between Matt and Mistress Anan, and watching the Suldam start learning to channel, right? That's unrefutable evidence in front of her. Watching the Aes Sedai be reasonable, not be out of control. Plus the arguments with Matt, plus the arguments with Mistress Anan. Like, she was set up so well to make a giant change around policy during the last battle.
Yeah, I guess that's part of it too, is that this feels like a betray. Like, I'm just like, what are we doing here? This feels like it's supposed to build to, but yeah, no, you're right. It is supposed to build to something. Because, yeah, it's Mistress Anan has been having the patience to say, yes, you see an entire section of humans as subhumans and you deny my very existence, but I'm going to remain calm in the face of that bigotry and, like, work with you on that.
And Mistress Anan is in a unique position to talk to Tuon because she cannot channel, but she could. And so she is this person who can make the argument, but is also someone who Tuon will listen to.
Right. Yeah, God, that is such a... Because you're right. I mean, no one's ever been convinced by being insulted, but, like, my God, that is so hard. That's just so hard to go into those minds and just
Yes.
chip away at that. Like, she is doing the light's work in the roughest spot, you know?
And you chip away at that by asking questions. You don't tell people anything.
Right.
You just ask questions, and a lot of times they think they have the answers, but then you ask another question that shows them something contradictory.
Right, and you can agree with them on some small unrelated piece of their argument as sort of a
That's
tangent.
how you have to
Be like,
start.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear you, but like, have you considered? And just, yeah.
You know, if that point is that women with a lot of power can be dangerous, yes.
Right.
That is
true.
a valid point.
Objectively
That
true.
is true. That is objectively true,
But,
right? Like,
yeah. No.
and then you try and move forward from there, right? Given that we both agree that is the case, what is the best solution? You think slavery.
Right.
I have a different opinion.
Right. But I will concede it is a problem that we do have to address. Sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Mr. Sonnen has the patience of a stone to be doing this, and
That's what I'm taking out of this.
okay, I'm going to choose to believe that Tuon is just lying to me and feel good about Mr. Sonnen's work.
So, okay, there's this interaction between Tuon and Talmanes
Oh yes.
that is just hilarious. They're going around, and Talmanes is saying, Lord Matt this, Lord Matt that, right? And she sort of says, is he a lord or is he not, she demanded. And Talmanes says, excuse me, but would you say that again? I apologize. I must have dirt in my ears. Which, I mean, just Talmanes, totally straight. I must have dirt in my ears. Right? No, he doesn't. Like, what?
But it takes them a minute to puzzle out what she had said. So I thought it was literally just her accent. Yeah, no, I thought it was a saving face kind of reaction because Kyrian and politeness is what it is.
Well, thanks for correcting me on that. I thought it was him just not wanting to answer whether or not Matt was Lord or not because he doesn't want to admit that he's not one.
No, I think he's fine with admitting he's not one. I mean, I think he's fine with it. And also because, like, this is the group. I mean, as Ryman says, like, he's not a lord except to us. Which, like, they do basically force him into accepting the trappings of being a lord at various points in the story, both before and after this, where they're like, we absolutely will not accept less than this level of lording from you.
And you have to understand, most of his fortune in the beginning came from these people.
Literally, they lost to him. Yeah.
Right.
He's the first people that they oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The band kind of paid for itself.
He got VC startup money, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, in a lot of ways, like, he used the money from the people in the band to pay the band's wages.
It's trickle-down economics actually made to work by the not invisible, very red hand of the market.
In this case, Matt is the government taxing the rich and redistributing the wealth to the poor.
But he does not believe in the military-industrial complex, despite having won World War II, because apparently he's Eisenhower now.
I mean, he certainly does believe in the military complex when he goes to Elaine and says, build my cannons.
He does.
And get all your companies and get all the raw materials. And we are using your monopoly power to force everybody in your country who can build bells to start working on these things.
Right, but he's literally trying to fight fascism. I mean, the Dark One. So, you know, you do what you got to do, even while also privately critiquing a world that's obsessed with war.
Okay, so now here's the question. He's working for the Dragon Reborn, who's forcibly taken over country by country and put dictatorial laws against the duly elected. Now, is he fighting against or is he fighting for fascism?
I mean, I guess fascism's better than, like, the complete annihilation of everything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But, like,
fascism, in a lot of ways, the Dragon Reborn is pretty fucking fascist.
But like, he doesn't fuck with, like, normal people in a way that fascism is kind of, like, built on. He just fucks with the rich people.
He's definitely a dictatorship, though, right?
Yes. His military dictatorship is
he's an empire.
Yes. His utter imperial energy is a lot. But he doesn't have quite the level of, like, social control that I associate with fascism. He just tells people to, like, give him all of the military might he needs to stop entropy from eating the world. Which is, like, again, he's really only fucking with rich people and governments, which makes him very Like, if there's such a thing as good fascism, that would be it, I guess.
Benevolent dictatorship?
Yeah, I mean, Rome did not have the office of dictator for no reason, right? Like, it was a very specific, like, thing that they thought they needed, and it didn't get fucky for several centuries. Like, it was a fine thing for a long time. Eco-fascism. He's doing it for the environment. Yeah, I mean, kinda.
I mean, the dragon is one with the land, right? Like,
Captain Planet has nothing on the Dragon Reborn.
And so, yeah, that POV basically ends with Talmanes saying, you know, if a battle won't get us out of this area, he's going to plan us a war.
Which is a great way to describe Matt's way of escalating his way through situations.
Right.
Just broadly. And then we get a great paragraph from Tuon to close the POV out. Tuon looked at him, squatting there by the map, moving his fingers over its surface, and suddenly she saw him in a new light. A buffoon? No. A lion stuffed into a horse stall might look like a peculiar joke, but a lion on the high plains was something very different. Toy was loose on the high plains now. She felt a chill. What sort of man had she entangled herself with? After all this time, she realized, she had hardly a clue. Yeah, you don't know what's going on.
Yep. You're learning that Matt is someone very different. Because she did. She encountered him in his, you know, pink ribbons phase era.
The real nadir of his power.
Yeah. Really, really low, where he was sort of giving up a lot of his, I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. A lot of his freedoms.
His agency, his power.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he was just getting buffeted around by circumstance when she met him. She hasn't seen him able to take control of a situation, really.
I gotta say, usually being in someone's POV gives me sympathy. Being in Tuon's POV, not a lot of sympathy. She's very cold.
No, I don't like being... I like getting to see that she really isn't redeemable. Like, I'm not misunderstanding her. Like, she really does suck. But again, if she ended up having a much more interesting turnaround later on, I would find this to be like, ooh, it's the first real glimmers of the fact that she's turning around. Like, this could have been that, but instead it's just a brief sparkle that doesn't go anywhere.
It's when people say that Sanderson really messed up Matt, part of it is, yes, who he is. He really sort of fails on his personality, but also he just fails on his development of the people around him and the timeline, right? Like, he fails with Tuon as much as he fails with Matt. Yeah. And by failing with both of them, their relationship doesn't go anywhere, and there's no payoff here, right? Like, and that's one thing he says. He did not do a great job with Matt. He didn't really understand Matt. And I think that the lack of Tuon's evolution, that you just get a very static character with Tuon once Sanderson takes over, is part of that misunderstanding of where that storyline was supposed to go.
Agreed. Strong agree. But for now, we get to shift over to Perrin.
The night was cool enough to send a small shiver through Perrin whenever the breeze gusted, despite his fur-lined cloak. A halo around the fat crescent moon said there would be more rain before long. Thick clouds drifting across the moon made the pale light dim and strengthen. Yet it was enough for his eyes. He sat stepper just inside the edge of the trees and watched the cluster of 4 tall gray stone windmills in a clearing atop the ridge, their pale sails gleaming and shadowed by turns as they rotated. The machinery of the windmills groaned loudly. It seemed doubtful the Shido even knew they should grease the works of the things. The stone aqueduct was a dark bar stretching east on high stone arches, past abandoned farms and rail-fenced fields. The Shido had planted, too early with this much rain, toward another ridge and the lake beyond. Malden lay one more ridge west. He eased the heavy hammer in its loop on his belt. Malden and Fail. In a few hours, he would add a 54th knot to the leather cord in his pocket. So, we got a time stamp. We're 54 days out.
Which is still 2 days from her getting rescued.
Right. And this is when we get the Bale Scream. That's what, well, I don't want to call it a Bale Scream anymore because we determined it's probably not that. But at the same time, the ripples. Yeah.
Which, in Fail's timeline, we're jumping forward quite a bit. The parent to Fail POVs, it feels like they should be happening simultaneously. But we know that Fail experienced the ripples many days earlier, and I cannot imagine that it happened at different times for different characters. It all happened at once.
Right.
So when Perrin experiences it is actually several days before the Fail POV that it then switches to, which is funky. I think that's part of why we were confused and thought that he put the T in. No, that's part of the proof for why when he put the T in, it's not the same day as the ripples. All the evidence is there, as Jordan would say. It's intuitively obvious. But, yeah, we really didn't catch that.
No, we tried. I tried to jump forward and read this chapter, but I think without doing full notes on it, I missed some of the details about the 2 days before he rescued her. But we'll have to go back. You have to go back and listen to that and see what we finally came down on. Because I feel like we debated it for a bit.
Yeah, and we will undoubtedly debate it again, because why not? So yeah, we get some nice, beautiful descriptions.
I mean, the solution is, of course, to go to the Wheel of Time timeline and actually read which days these things happen on. So,
but you have to remember that you're wrong about something and then go check it. And that's the hardest part, is remembering that you aren't just obviously right.
Uh-huh.
So hard to remember to check your expectations.
Hold on.
To what?
Your loins. Okay, so the timeline states that these are the ripples are occurring on different days for different people.
No.
Which, yeah, that's I'm saying no way.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Absolutely not. But I do agree that it isn't 2 days before Fael gets out.
No. It's long before that.
So they're not wrong in terms of canonical evidence, but RJ fucked up. That cannot be. I'm sorry. They're like 2 miles away from each other and these things are happening weeks apart. That's garbage.
It looks like it is 5 days apart.
Why? Is it just going to happen every 5 days in that location until the last battle happens? Like, what is this, some sort of hinders tappy kind of cycle thing? But Fael doesn't experience it twice. Fael only experiences it once. Perrin only experienced it once. None of this makes any sense.
That basically on. I mean, I'm gonna use our dates because I think it's easier than trying to use the in-world dates.
Yeah.
So April 3rd, Fael attends Savannah. Savannah and Tharava argue whether the Shido should stay near Malden, right? The world ripples 3 times. Alvon gives Fael the Oath Rod. So she gets the Oath Rod during the first 3 ripples, right? 3 days later, Perrin is wounded with the assassination attempt when getting the fork root, right? Remember, he gets stabbed. That's 3 days later. And then we have this April 8th. 5 days after that is this current event, is Perrin dumping the fork root. And then the world ripples 3 times again.
I just disagree with that so strongly. Why would there just be 2 ripples slightly offset in time and space like that? Why the ever-living dog snacks would that happen? That makes no sense.
And then we have the next 2 days, which is, the whole Oath Rod thing, Fael getting trapped, Perrin going in and rescuing everybody. Yeah, that's the next 2 days.
What the hell is happening?
But you can see why this is why we had so much troubles, because we assumed those were happening at the same day, and we're trying to sync up events around those, but they clearly don't.
Well, we can hardly be blamed. That makes no sense. Why would you no Bubble of Evil has ever repeated. Certainly not like that. It's supposed to be a time sync. How are we supposed to get 3 bizarre-ass ripples and not have them be a time sync? Like, I know we're in the trope-breaking business, but that's just rude.
And it breaks all of our stuff about, like, how we were like, oh, it's one Bubble of Evil happening to, like...
Like, I know this world is really fucked up, but this is pushing me over the fucking edge.
I really do think this is a mistake. I really do think that Jordan messed this one up.
It has to be. There's no precedent and no mechanic to make this make sense.
Right.
This is supposed to be the same thing. Ugh. Inconsiderate.
But to make the timelines work out, right? Like, she has to steal the oath rod quite a bit before Perrin dumps the grains in the water.
Yep.
And starts, like, there has to be a much bigger time gap there, and because she has it for a while, she hides it.
Yep. Ridiculous.
Which makes it, I mean, even more uncertain as to what those ripples are, right? Like, because that now our leading theory was it was a big bubble of evil. Is it 2 bubbles of evil? But then is it 2 Bale screams, right? Like, what's going on? How are they occurring so close in location and not? Yeah, for me, it has to be a mistake. They were supposed to be the same time. Jordan got a little dissynced in his timelines. She was supposed to steal the rod 2 days before she got rescued. And I'm leaving it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. A mistake is the simplest way to make that make sense. But feel free to argue with us about it in Discord. All right. Well, disappointing, but there we go. In the meantime, before we get to the ripples, we get to look at the aqueducts, how they work, how we're putting the grains in, just kind of get this nice foggy, like, creeping around pre-dawn scene. Perrin is micromanaging, being like, don't even open the sacks except over the aqueduct because every single grain has to go in. And he's just, he's being Perrin at the eve of getting his wife back. He's micromanaging.
So, yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of, like, dumping the grains in and how long are they going to take? And, yeah, they'll absorb water and sink eventually. Is that going to be long enough to get them in? Clearly it is, right? Like, even if it's not, they're going to sit at the bottom of the cistern and just turn it into tea.
And then we get a look at everyone who's going in on the mission, and they all give Perrin whatever commentary they're going to give. We have Seonid with 2 warders plus a 3rd warder who's not hers. Elias, the 2 Riversmen, Chafail.
And I definitely have missed this before. All these people went through the cistern, got out, or went through the aqueduct to the cistern, got out of the cistern, and are hiding inside a broken down fortress. That the Aiel aren't going in because they don't like being inside. They like camping outside, right?
No, it's because it's in the burned out part of town where no one goes anymore.
Okay.
They're just hiding out in this fortress where there's nothing of value and everything's a burned out mess, so the Aiel just don't go there.
They don't really like being behind stone walls anyway, though, right?
They just don't like being in the town. They sort of burned the town down partially, and they camped outside, so, like, part of the town is kind of usable and part of the town's completely unusable. So the idea is everyone goes and hides in the totally unusable part, and there won't be anyone there to spot them. And Fael and co are supposed to make their way there and meet everyone up in the fortress, which is a defensible location. They don't know to go there, so this entire party just waits the fight out, doing nothing because no one ever shows up to be with them. All of this preparation is for nothing. All these people going down there is for nothing, but that's just because Galena lied. So
apparently, this line, you'll have to use the artwork on the wall, and there might even be Shido in the town even at this hour. Elise had seemed unsure on that. Thunder boomed hollowly in the distance. Apparently, in the original printing, it said Galena. But Perrin wouldn't have known her name was Galena. He would have known her by Elise. And so, yeah, that if that is wrong in your book, you have an earlier printing.
I never noticed that it was wrong in the audiobook, but it obviously would be because audiobook.
It would be. They're based on the original printing.
I never noticed that error. That is really funny. My copy has Elise, but that's because, it's the original cover, but it's not an original printing.
Right. Pants says she's got Galena in hers. So
yeah.
Yep.
You get Elias being, doing his fun Elias misogyny thing, being like, yeah, cold showers help with your troubles because troubles all come from women. Get it? Because women. Mountain Man doesn't have a great sense of humor.
I mean, yeah, Elias is a single dude who's been out in the forest without any contact with women for a long time. And his last contact with women was the Aes Sedai who tried to kill him.
Yeah.
He's got more basis than some to say stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we can give him a pass based on specific trauma. You can have an environmental pass. It's fine.
But I think he's joking. I think it's just like, oh, take a cold bath. That'll help. And Perrin's like, that's what you told me about women. He's like, that's my advice for everything. Just take a cold bath. You'll
I'm
get
a
over
dog.
it.
I just like jumping in rivers. That's all.
Yeah.
Talonvor gets to go because Perrin apparently can smell caution, which I find a bit much. Oh, he mostly smells stressed out, but he smells a little bit cautious too. And I'm like, how are you sure you're interpreting that correctly?
Remember, Perrin isn't written to be an autistic empath. He can sense other people's emotions. He just doesn't understand them. Right? I know the scent thing. He stretches it far to be like, all emotions have sense, but
a thread of caution, really?
Perrin's just an empath. You just have to believe he's an empath, and the sense thing is just Jordan's magic way of being able to tell that.
I've gotten in too much trouble thinking that I have empathic abilities. I've gotten in too much trouble to believe that they're real anymore. So, they're
not real. This is a fantasy novel, and they don't actually exist. So,
wait, what?
You don't have them. Perrin does. He's an empath. You are not. That's pretty much. Oh, it is. Yeah, interesting that the ability to assume you know what's going on in somebody else's head to the point where you make actions based on that and be completely wrong.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's understanding how someone is going to behave is different than understanding their current emotional state. It's not the same. Anyway, Perrin overreads into things, in my opinion, but he's always right for plot reasons, so it's fine. Perrin respects Chafael. Chafael respects him. That's very nice. Ban tells us that the aqueduct is all slimy, so no one's going to be climbing back up it. They're going to have to sit tight and wait to get rescued. We get mentioned that Perrin has a member of kin that is alive. Billy Adara, apparently. It's technically related to Perrin, so that's nice. He has someone who's technically related to him. And then Gaul shows up, and he's going in. And Perrin did not expect Gaul to be going in. But we get the very fun Gaul situation, which I will wait to expand on until Seth returns, because he is struggling and has now left the stage.
Can't stop sneezing till I wash my face. Allergies.
I was washing your face. Oh, just to get the trigger, the physical stuff off of your face.
Yeah.
Really, it's in your eyebrows
basically.
or whatever, just falling into your nose.
I think it just gets in my nose and in my beard, maybe.
Sure. I mean, neti pots are recommended for allergies because that'll flush it all the way.
Yeah.
I cannot stand neti pots, but Brandon does them kind of a lot when it's bad.
The idea of it just makes my skin crawl. And the idea of something in the water getting in my nostrils bothers me too. I don't know. I feel like nose hairs are there for a reason.
I'm a really big fan of steaming.
That was bad for a second. Yeah, just getting a little bit of shower and steam. I'll probably do that after we're done recording. But, yeah, excuse me. I'm sorry about that. It's...
Hopefully you're all right now. We can power through a little more.
Yeah.
So the next thing I've got is talking about Gaul going after Tuon and the whole thing with the maidens, sort of egging him on sneakily.
He's really dismissive of Bane.
I care nothing for her.
He's like, I don't give a shit about her. I care nothing for her. And it's like, dude, I mean, even if you don't care about her, the person you care about cares about her, right? So shouldn't there be something?
Yeah. Why would Tuon want to be with you if you care nothing for her best friend and spear wife? What are you doing with your affection, sir? But it's funny that the maidens have encouraged this they're sending him in to go prove himself.
Right. No, yeah, they've challenged him. They'll be like, oh, we're going to get him first and make him our guy shine. He's like, no, I want them to be my guy shine. Which we've already seen is a pretty established way for people to, and a lot of times the guys shine have the power because they get to see everything. They can come and go as they please. Like, there's a certain amount of, like, you have to be careful because after a year and a day, they go back to being normal and they've seen all your shit. And so I think in a certain way, this banning Chiad becoming Gaul's guy shine is a bit of a test for him.
Right. The maidens have decided that if he's up to rescuing them and acquiring their guy shine ship, then he'll be up to then they need to give him a proper test from the position of being guy shine. And they're saying, look, ladies, you gotta give him a test. Look at how much he's proven himself. You at least have to give him a chance to get run through the ringer of your attention as guy shine.
But yeah, in no way is Gaul going to be the one in charge in that situation when Bane ever. But he's willing to do it. He's that in love with Chiad that he's willing to just go in there, take the risk, and bring Bane into it as well. Yeah,
he doesn't do it on purpose, but he's willing to stick with it once he's there.
And I think that's what he's trying to say when he says, I care nothing about her, is not necessarily that, like, he hates her, or I don't care about her. It's just like, I care about Chiad, and I'm willing to rescue Bane as well.
I think he accidentally rescues Bane, as I recall, when it gets discussed later.
He tried to just rescue one of them.
Right, but he, because it's the heat of battle, he ends up taking both, and it's frustrating to him, but the maidens think it's funny. But yeah, I like how the maidens have decided that they want to play in this matchmaking game.
Yeah, interesting about Gaul getting into the water.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that.
To go rescue them, and how much that must have affected him.
I wonder
how
to get into a tunnel half full of water when you're an Aiel who doesn't like being enclosed and doesn't like water. That's a lot of G.
Not pleasant.
A lot of G.
He had to bend almost parallel to the surface to get under the aqueduct's top. He's so tall, right?
Yeah. So the legend said, was he one of the original rafters back in the Supergirl captivity days? No, Lilligin, he wasn't.
Oh, he might have been. Oh, no, because he was always...
Gaul first shows up in Tyr, I believe.
Yeah.
Avienda was with some other women. No, Gaul first shows up in Perrin's arc, not in Tyr. In the cage, the whole Release Me Wetlander thing. But no, he was in a different party. Avienda was with some other Tardad and a bunch of maidens. And Ruark was in that group. But I don't believe Gaul was, because Gaul was busy being caged. But Ruark is the named male Aiel that you're thinking of from that. I believe he's the only male named Aiel from that group.
I'm nodding. Because they're, like, behind everybody else. Then they like, stayed behind because Avienda, or I forget why.
Yeah. No, it was Avienda. It was because Avienda was foot dragging.
Right. Because she didn't want to be, she wanted to keep being a spear sister and not be a wise one's apprentice.
Right, exactly.
So here, Mishima says, the Banner General was right about you, he said slowly. What does she say? You'll have to ask her, my lord. Any idea?
No! What the fuck was that comment? Why? Why would you say something so cryptic and then be like, oh, not my place to comment on that? You just commented on it. What the hell, dude? Why? But no, I have no idea. I have zero idea something about he's a good commander, I guess, but I can't think of what specifically she said.
Smart with the details or something. Yeah, I got nothing.
Nothing gets past him. Those eyes see more than you think. Like something to that effect. I don't know.
Yeah, I got nothing.
All right. So yeah, Perrin rides down the hill thinking about how easy it would be to not ride down the hill. And then he goes and checks in with Grady and thinks about how tired the Ashaman are without thinking about how to use them more efficiently, which is just frustrating. But, we're not to the Sanderson efficiency era yet, so.
Well, yeah, and it's just like, I don't know, why it feels like these gateways, I guess they must just be holding them open for a long period of time, and that's what's hard. But you can't really tie them off because, we saw what happens when you tie a gateway off and it closes unexpectedly. You get people cut in half, right?
No, he does tie them off. He literally says he's been tying them off.
I know, but it's risk, is what I'm saying. Is you don't want to be doing that because it is risky.
It's only risky if you try to unweave them, right? That's the only reason that it exploded was because Elaine tried to unweave it so it wouldn't leave a residue.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, remember when the Shido hit the fuel boxes?
Oh!
And Samael created the gateways and tied them off. There's a period of time in which they will unravel and shut naturally. And you don't have good control over how long that's going to be. Once you tie them off, they could unravel eventually, and it could be soon or it could be a little bit later, right? So it's not ideal because you are risking them shutting unexpectedly when you tie them off.
I assumed that they had sort of had a way of controlling that, but
I mean, maybe you can tie it off with a thicker knot and it'll last longer, and you can be like, this is at least a 3-hour knot.
Yeah, that was my idea, was my impression. But yeah, I hadn't thought of how that's less secure.
But then why are we not tying them off more often, right?
Well, there's a lot of mechanics that I think are good questions that RJ just didn't experience. But yeah, I don't know. Perrin's just being very inefficient with his use of the Ashima here, but he's aware that he's burning them up really hard, so it's, kind of good,
I guess. Yeah, this is one of those things that really feels one of the few places where I feel like Jordan really went like, I need an excuse why these gateways aren't being used left and right, because they would really make this a lot simpler. I'm gonna make them tired.
Yeah,
it's one of those places where it really does feel like the plot is driving the magic system in a way that isn't consistent.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few times where I really, really don't like how Jordan uses parents to Ashimon.
Yeah.
Gradient yield could be so much more effective because we don't see him using them a lot, right? He just thinks about how much he's using them.
Yeah. And then we get the report from Grady that he tried to free some Damani and they freaked out and were unhappy, and parents like, you don't do that. Don't try to do that. That's not the battle that we're fighting right now.
Which, okay, is the whole problem with Damani, right? Whatever happens with the Damani, Grady, it won't be this week or next, and it won't be us who fixes it.
Yeah, that's some kick in the can, passing the buck bullshit.
Yeah. Now, again, would have been better if we'd had Matt be the one who was fixing it.
I do get parents saying I contracted with them for a very specific reason and I can't be distracted trying to fix their society while I conscript with them to do this one campaign. I get Perrin making that morally gray choice. But yeah, again, if Matt somehow took that ball and ran with it and was the one fixing it, and Perrin got a chance to like pitch in later being like, aha, there's the person fixing it, that would have been satisfying.
Again, more evidence. I think Robert Jordan was really intending that to happen when writing this chapter.
That would be a really good line for Perrin to say, well, this is too big for me, and then, a month later in world time be like, oh my god, Matt's fixing it, I can participate now I have the capacity to join into this thing that I wanted to fix earlier. That would have been great. Especially because he's thinking, too, here about, like, his issues with Tylee, right? He's like, it's hard to think of Tylee Kirgan as the Dark One, or being in league with the Dark One, but also the slavery thing. And, like, again, we want to see Tylee go through a process like Lylewyn and be like,
right,
this might be a problem. I might be exposed to ideas that I can't shake now. Oh dear. We want to see that.
I wanted Tuon to go through that. I wanted, like, that's what you want, really, more than anything else.
Exactly. There's supposed to be motion here. It's supposed to build. It's
right.
supposed to snowball. And Tuon is supposed to, be riding that snowball. And
So Perrin, I basically have him going to his blankets and encountering Barrelane next.
Yep. He's heading to his tent, and he notices that there is a messenger that's arrived, and that it appears they're being entertained in his tent. And sure enough, Barrelane is commandeered his tent because she figured Perrin would want to see the messenger, who is Tylee. Also, I noticed that the Rockin handler looks at Perrin like she recognizes him without saying anything. And I'm like, does that mean Dark Friend? Does that mean Dark Friend going, there he is. I'd better note that for my next report.
Oh, that's a good catch. Yeah.
Because why else is that line there? Why would she look at him like she recognized him, but then not say anything? Why is that ink being spilled to tell us that? Like, I'm assuming low-level Dark Friend, just for fun.
I completely missed that.
So yeah, we go into the tent, and Tylee is disappointed to hear that Perrin followed through with what he said he was going to do. And he says that he would have put the tea in the water 2 days earlier if not for someone dragging their feet.
Well, that was the supply, right? It took him a while to get all the supplies, basically. So that's it just took him 2 days to get all of the fork root together.
That's interesting, that this could have been 2 days sooner.
Sure.
Maybe then the ripples would have happened at the same time.
Well, the ripples would have happened when he was invading if he'd done it 2 days earlier, right?
Oh, that would have been a weird moment on the battlefield. Are we human enough to keep fighting? Like, are you solid enough for me to try to kill? Can we just reassure each other before we go back to murdering?
Right, and it's like, oh, I survived the ripples. Stab. Oh, crap, now I'm dead.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Honestly, I'm so confused by those ripples right now. I'm so confused by them. I'm upset.
Yeah. Perturbed, unsettled, discombobulated.
I'm also not doing great. I'm sorry.
Yeah, totally. So next we get a interaction with Aram. That's the next thing I've got, where Aram's like, I want more wine, and Linny's like, absolutely not, stop giving the radicalized teenager wine. And Aram's like, well, I'm gonna go drink with my frat bros then, and gives this horrible sullen look to Perrin, and it's just like, yeah, he's so far gone. Perrin knows how far gone he is, and
he's the teenager at the dinner table who's like, I'm gonna go do drugs and skateboard with my friends, and fuck you, Dad. And you're just like, what do you do about that? Like, go rebel, I guess, but you're still getting involved in shit that's gonna ruin your life, so I don't want you to. Like, that's tough, right? When someone's actively trying to ruin their life, what do you do about that?
Yeah, truly. I mean, even setting aside the being radicalized part, but yeah, just the self-destructive track is like, how do you convince someone to stop self-destructing? Like, that's difficult. It's very difficult.
It's really hard. And it's like, we have suicide self-help, suicide lines, and we have, helplines. But like, if someone's really like, I see people self-destructing on the street all the time,
Yeah. No, I mean, there's definitely some local characters around where I live where it's like, there they go, self-destruction person number 7 that we know in this area. Like, they're having another day in their self-destruction spiral.
Anyway.
Yeah. So it's rough, but at this point it's like the ship has sailed and is disappearing over the horizon.
Yeah. Right.
Like
right.
The last of the ship is disappearing below the horizon with the Aram situation at this point.
This is Aram, getting his guns, getting ready to head to a protest so he can shoot some protesters, right? Like,
right. And Perrin's just like, man, someone should do something.
Yeah. Perrin.
Great.
He's like, I'm rescuing my wife over here.
Yeah,
okay.
It's great.
He's like, at least he recognizes he's not stable enough to go in. But at the same time, that's probably radicalizing him more because he's like, Perrin doesn't trust me anymore. Which
just proves what Massima's been saying. Like, it's
exactly.
We needed to just shove Aram through a gateway to like a completely different country and be like, I'm sorry, here's like a week's worth of food. Just go find literally anyone anywhere else. Just be away from this.
Here's a snow igloo we found for some reason.
Yeah. Just go away, so far away. But that's not what is happening here. We're going to talk about the news, which the news includes, first of all, something else I think we might be able to be frustrated about. The 7,000 White Cloaks, known to be led by Galadred Damadred. Known to be led by Galadred Damadred. Bulwer knows. Perrin knows. Why does the fucking trial situation take so long to resolve with them knowing that Galadred Damadred is in charge of those White Cloaks? This is the point at which they become aware of the fact that he's in charge of the White Cloaks. Like, why is this chapter ignored later?
Yeah, because there's a point where he says, "Oh, I wish I'd known who you were, and maybe we could have resolved this."
But
and
you
it's
did.
like,
You did.
You did know.
We don't know who the sigil is. Why are you not wondering if maybe it's Galad's sigil? Maybe possibly. Why would you not even... Why does Balwer never remember hearing this? Never think to follow up on it? Like, it's absolutely ridiculous later. And this is why.
I mean, they do make a point of Lenny leaving before the name is announced. He does make a point of making sure all of the...
Brienne is still there.
Camelin...
Yeah.
Is she?
Yeah, Brienne specifically is told to stay to serve them. Lenny leaves, and Barrowland says, "Yeah, Brienne, you can stay and take care of all of us." I mean, granted, Brienne is barely Andorran. She's Andorran by virtue of being attached to the party. She's technically Kyrianan, but like, she knows who Galadriel Damodred is.
You think she'd go back and be like, "By the way, your son is in charge of the White Cloaks. I just heard that."
You would think that she would let Morghese know when that comes up. She'd think that she would tell Lenny when she goes back to the tent that night. But it never comes up. It's like it doesn't matter at all. But it says it right here. Galadriel Damodred. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, Balwer even says, "I feel I owe this Galad Damodred a favor for having killed Valda." You'd think that he would show a little more interest in connecting those dots later when Perrin is being threatened by a mysterious White Cloak commander who seems to have a strange sense of honor and who has recently risen to his position. You'd think Balwer would be like, I wonder if it's Galad. But he doesn't. Also,
yeah, like, and he knows that Balwer is here. He knows who Galad... He hears about Galad. He knows who Morghese is.
Yeah, he knows who Galad is. He helped Pedro Nile blackmail Morghese with Galad. He helped that happen.
Whew, yeah, that's got to be a mistake on Sanderson's part. That's a big one, too.
Just because he wanted tension. He's just like, I'm going to not fix this mistake when it's inevitably pointed out. No, we're just going to... Because it's one of my least favorite kinds of tension when two people are headed towards a train wreck that just one piece of information could solve. It's one of my least favorite kinds of tension, and I fucking hate it.
Sanderson uses that a lot.
It's part of why I don't like his writing. And the more that I circle around that particular scene and where that tension comes from, the more I'm like, but it didn't even have to be there. The information's right here. It literally, that none of that had to happen.
Yeah. None of that had that.
So,
you're right.
Burn it all down to the ground. Next paragraph.
So Barrowlane's about to leave. And we get a little bit of comment on her scent and how she's not trying to fuck him anymore. She's just there to help, I guess.
Oh my god. So she goes over to Perrin, lays her hand on his arm, and looks up and devotedly says, "I don't mind leaving." And Perrin looks down at her and thinks, wow, it's amazing anyone thinks there's anything between us. I'm like, but from the outside, that looks like a very functional married couple. From the outside, that is the body language of two people who are intimate and comfortable at working together. And I just, like, Perrin, I get that she smells like she's not trying to fuck you anymore. But if you think that this doesn't look like a functioning relationship, you are so fucking clueless, my dude. And it makes sense because the only reason that she's pursuing Perrin at this point is to stick it to Fael. So that's why she's dedicated to finding Fael, because the game won't work until Fael's back in the equation.
Right. Yeah. There's no opponent. Yeah, like, she doesn't want to win by default. She wants to play the game.
Exactly. And Perrin's like, wow, she respects everything now, and we just get to work together, and it's great. And it's like, dude, she's gonna go, and everyone is looking at them going, so are they sleeping together or not?
Lenny's saying yes, they are.
Exactly. Why would she not? Why would people are having good visual evidence. Nobody is in Perrin's head interpreting his idea of what emotions are. Anyway, Perrin says, no, don't leave. Everyone in the tent can hear the next piece of news. The next piece of news is that there are 2 bands of Aiel coming from the south that are going to complicate the situation in 3 days. But Perrin says it doesn't matter because it'll be in 2 days. But before he can actually say that, we get the ripples, and we get the title of the chapter. Do you want to read the section, or do you want me to?
Suddenly, everything seemed to ripple in Perrin's sight. He felt himself ripple. Brienne gave a cry and dropped the pitcher. The world rippled again, and Berelain clutched his arm. Tylee's hand seemed frozen in that odd gesture, thumb and forefinger forming a crescent. Everything rippled for a third time, and Perrin felt as if he were made of fog, as if the world were fog with a high wind coming. Berelain shuddered, and he put a comforting arm around her. She clung to him, trembling. Silence and the scent of fear filled the tent. He could hear voices being raised outside, and they sounded afraid too.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty good paragraph. As if the world were fog and a high wind coming. Like, ooh, it's good.
It is, but it doesn't give us almost any details. Because he just moves on,
Because Perrin's way to deal with bubbles of evil is to ignore them, right? He saw a man turn into beetles and said, So what's the world rippling for a moment? Like, who cares? But it does sound a lot like what Fael experienced, and it should have been a time sink. So, I'm gonna stay mad about that.
I still don't believe it's not.
Yeah, how is it not?
But here, we do have a time sink where we jump over to her POV right after this, right?
Yes, we switch to Fael's POV. We're in the morning on the day of? Is this the day of the rescue?
So this is when she talks to Savannah, right?
Galena.
Or to Galena about having it. Yeah. This is...
No. Galena says, you'll give it to me tomorrow morning in the town. So this is one day before. Okay, so Perrin just put the tea in the water in the pre-dawn, and now we're post-dawn, pre-noon, same day.
No, this is the next day.
This is the next day. Okay, so we're like...
Because remember, he puts the stuff in and he says, in 2 days we're going to be rescued. This is the day before.
Okay, so we're like 28 hours later.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because again, I was not sure where these lined up. Okay, so jumping forward a day and a few hours, we switch to Fael. And she's apparently getting floods of people asking to swear fealty to her and then immediately suggesting that they do a slave rebellion and rise up. She's feeling this powder keg blowing up under her, and she's trying to keep a lid on it, but she knows that a lot of people are going to get killed very soon unless she can figure something out very quickly. But while she's thinking such pleasant thoughts, we return to telling Roland that no means no.
Does it? Does it really?
Not to Roland.
Oh.
It's only a kissing game. Now, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
The same way that Matt and Aludra were just playing kissing games?
Except that Roland is going to escalate his games way faster than Matt or Aludra ever did.
In the games adults play, the forfeits are fun. Losing can be as pleasant as winning. You big flirt.
I mean, I love it for you that you're a switch, but consent still matters.
He's a power bottom.
Yeah. And before we get into too much of uncomfortable territory, Galena comes running up, thankfully clothed for the first time in a while.
Right. Not just in her gems or jewelry.
Yeah, she's been allowed clothes as of this morning, and her hair has grown out an inch, which again puts us at quite a few days away from when the rod got stolen, and we last were really like in that space.
Right, because that's when the ripples happen, is when the rod got stolen.
And that's also the instance where she gets her head shaved, right? Or all her hair shaved?
I don't remember when she gets her head shaved, I'll be honest.
Oh. I might be conflagrating things. I don't remember when all the things happen. It's a bad time in the Aiel camp.
Well, because again, it's been 4 books and 54 days.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And for that's like 2 years.
Redonkulous.
Yeah.
So yeah, she goes to talk to Galena, but not before Roland like basically gives her a kiss, which is like
the stroking of the cheek is very,
like it's supposed to be romantic, but it's not when you're a fucking stalker who won't take no for an answer.
Right. Who's a kidnapper, basically.
And who's saying, I'm essentially going to kidnap you again.
Right.
If I feel like it, for your own good, that in a way that you want.
To rescue you from the people I kidnapped you for, who I realize now are bad people, but didn't realize that in the last couple of years, just in the last month or so.
And I'm just gonna give you this really intimate gesture that you very much don't want. And it's gonna be fine.
Roland's creepy.
Yep. Glad Perrin just whacks him out with a hammer. Love that for Perrin. But in the meantime, we get to have a slapping fight with Galena.
Yeah. But basically, Galena's like, give me the rod, and Fael's like, not till you promise me a bunch of stuff, and your Aes Sedai, so you have to, if you promise it straight out, you're going to have to do it.
Well, and she says, promise me again. She's like, reiterate the promise you already made, say it straight out, because I have trust issues, and your Aes Sedai. And Galena's response is to slap her, which gets her slapped in return, and it's just all very short fusey.
And this is where we get the setup for the Galena making the house collapse on her, where Fael's like, I'm gonna go get it for you right now. We can go get it. I got it hidden, And Galena's like, no. Meet in this special place. I'll set up a red scarf.
Yeah, because, the slaps happen, and then Galena says, fine, I promise, I'll take you and your friends, because, she's Black Aja, she can lie. And then, sets up the conditions. I'll use a red scarf, which just have to notice that, it's a red flag, and her guise is as a red, and, red. We got the red just to cover everything up. And this, sets up the whole Magdan arc.
I also wonder if the whole collapsing the houses was Galena's revenge for getting slapped. That she wasn't going to do that initially, but after she got slapped, she's like, fine, I'll collapse the house on your ass.
She does think later about how, and thus the last chance that she could leave Fael and her friends alive alone died, or something like that. She thinks that after this interaction. So I definitely think that the house collapsing scheme started as a vindictive plot and ended as a practical efficiency for covering her tracks. Like, I definitely think she was planning to collapse the house on her for petty reasons. It just so happened that later on she was like, oh, I guess I have to do it for, tying up loose ends reasons.
Right. I may not have if I felt generous. That whole I have control over life or death. Right? That I might kill them, I might not. But then she no longer has control because of, I forget exactly what the statement is, but she lies, basically.
Yeah, she lies directly and thus reveals herself as Black Aja if she leaves them alive. Yeah, no, she totally could have been prepared to play mind games and then decided, I'll just go full destruction instead. But the slap definitely factors into her reasoning because she is a petty person under the best of circumstances, and these are not the best.
Do you want to read us out?
Yeah. Fael frowned as she watched the woman go. She should have felt exultation, but she did not. Galena seemed almost a wild thing, unpredictable. Still, I said I could not lie. There seemed no way for her to wriggle out of her promise. And if she found one, there were still her own plans for an escape, though those seemed no further along, if much more dangerous, than they had when first begun, which left Roland and his kissing games. Galena had to prove true. She had to. And with that, we end episode 499 of WoTSpoilers.
499. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Next week, we are doing a plain wooden box. Rand is losing a hand, and we are cracking the big 500.
Big 500. And the fact that we got the timing to come out. 500 for a good, we didn't end up on this chapter for 500, right?
Yeah. We made it work. We made it work. I am so happy about that. I cannot believe we're hitting episode 500. That is incredible. We're doing it.
God, we might have to do something special next week.
Just make cupcakes.
Yeah, I made a cheesecake this week.
Ooh, very nice.
I've been practicing for the wedding.
I was going to ask, was that a test for the wedding?
Yeah, test for the wedding.
Nice.
Definitely had an issue with the bottom sticking. I need to oil it better because it kind of fell apart pulling it out of the pan.
You do want to find that out now in June.
Yeah. Yep. There's a reason I'm trying it, right? But the cake, it's delicious, right? It's just kind of
no,
crumbled
you have
a
to
little
eat
bit.
your way through experimental cake. How terrible.
Darn. Oreo base. So the base is I take 28 Oreos, not double stuff. That's too much sugar. 28 regular Oreos. Throw them in the blender. Add 4 tablespoons of butter. And that's your base. You just I pack that into the bottom, and I bake that for 10 minutes. And then my recipe is 2 pounds cream cheese, 8 ounces of sour cream, teaspoon vanilla, 5 eggs. Beat all that together. Pour that in the crust. Bake that for an hour at 350. Turn off the oven and let it sit for an hour. Then you can pull it out.
Nice. That sounds awesome, and I look forward to eating the perfected version.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
All right, I'll be right back. Ugh.
Ooh. Yeah, that is nice. That looks good.
Yeah. So, let me hold that up where you can see it. So, yeah, you can see the base, and this will get some frosting on it. But you can see, and I just kind of crumbled it up. But you can see, it kind of fell apart as I was pulling it out. Cracked it, but it didn't have any cracks in it when I was done cooking it. Yeah, it's good. It's delicious.
So all your friends and neighbors are gonna have to help you just deal with all these experimental cakes.
Yep, I've already given away a bunch of pieces today.
Wish I lived closer.
I'm like, they're not the prettiest, but yeah. But yeah, basically, I didn't oil the pan. That was my problem. Yeah. So I had the paper down, and everything stuck to the pan, and it was me. Yeah, being silly. Because normally, in the past, I've just eaten it right off the bottom of the springform. I just don't take it out of the bottom. I take the edges off. But what I realized is if I want to make enough of these, I need to be able to reuse my springform pans, which means I need to be able to get them out of the springform pans. Mm-hmm. So
that does make sense, yeah. This is a different context than you usually make cake for.
Yeah. Yep. And it's just a simple thing. So that, and then we're going to use a mascarpone frosting. Basically, the stuff we use in the tiramisu is going to be the frosting on top of that. And I've got 3 different size springform pans, so I can do a 3-tier cake.
Do you have toppers?
No. I guess we could. I haven't even thought about
Some people get really
toppers.
into it. I my mom made little Fimo models of me and my husband for our cake. Just like they're so funny. They're so cute.
Her dad has a 3D printer. I could probably get him to 3D print anything I wanted.
I'm just saying, having a custom cake topper does add an extra layer of special. Because, I mean, how often are you going to make a 3-tiered cake for yourself? You might as well put a cherry on top, so to speak. And a 3D printed anything could be very, very fun. So
right.
Think about it.
Right.
Be a fun little thing for him to contribute.
Oh, is recording still on?
Yes, it is. We can turn it off.
Let's
now.
turn that off. Yeah. So, in better news, I want to include 2 links because I wasted my morning, but I essentially found that I could emulate macOS 9 in a web browser, which means that I could download my favorite game, Odyssey Legend of Nemesis, from when I was a child, copy it into a web browser emulation of macOS 9, and play a game that I thought was forever lost to me. And I had a lot of fun doing that this morning. And I definitely put my fingers on the keys and was able to play, didn't have to relearn the key bindings or anything like that. Instantly knew where to go. The puzzles came right back to me. It was brilliant. It was really brilliant. And I played for way too long. And that's partially why we're getting a late start on recording today. That and my allergies are out of fucking control. So if I sound weird today, it's because my nose is completely clogged up.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that for you. I have experienced that joy one time with one of the very few games I ever played. And yeah, it's amazing how it just all comes flooding back and you're just like a happy kid without a care in the world, just playing your video game and it's just, or computer game. And it's just the best. Oh, that's so great. I will definitely include those links.
And I cannot objectively recommend the game to anybody, right?
Well, that's beside the point.
Beside the point. But man, so it's the basic outline, right? There's 7 islands and you travel between them and each one has their own unique situation with monsters on the outside. The first one, there are 2 islands, but it's all very literature based, right? So the first island has these two villages, Nyack and Elba, and they hate each other. And Nyack is all about violence, and Elba's all about peace. And then you spell those backwards, and you realize they're spelled backwards, Cain and Abel. And the whole story is about, like, the biblical attack between these two people, but it's two villages who hate each other, right? And your goal is to basically make peace between them. And that's Island 1. And it's like, and so many literary things that I know about come from playing this stupid game that uses, literary references to name their characters. There's an island where it's been ruined by this guy who just wants to make money, and he's driven this guy named Carl underground, who's all about sharing and talks about the consumption and how consumption should be distributed among the workers. And you're like, wait a minute. This island's about communism.
Red flags?
And how...
Red flags?
Yeah. You're like, oh, this is just an island where they talk about communism and how that mightn't be a good idea and how capitalism will ruin it every time.
That's amazing.
And then it's just amazing. It's got shit like that all throughout it that, like, as a kid, I had no idea, but playing it as an adult, I realized that it's all of these literary references and political references, and, it talks about Castor and Pollux, and, just weird references that I finally am like, oh yeah, this is fun. This is fun. So, nostalgia.
Beautiful thing to indulge in.
But the wonderful thing is, the game is completely free online. You can download the source code, and you can download a playable version of it from a website, right, that they've made available. And so if you have an emulator, it's totally free.
That's fantastic.
Anyway.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or
support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?